welcome back, guys. It's Kibler from the Brothers Geek Out podcast, and this is our Geek Out session. We have a wonderful guest on, Danny, who is known as HijabiHoo.
Hello.
Uh, Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's an absolute honor. The podcast really represents about things that we do, but people like us doing like stuff that we absolutely love and adore, but
Yeah.
being in that sort of pop culture industry.
Yeah.
And we've been following each other's work for a little while, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to reach out because I need to have a conversation and help inspire some of the sisters that I have listened to the podcast as well. Like,
Yeah.
when did this all start for you? What was it that clicked in your head to say, you know what, I want to do this?
It was honestly mostly what you just said about wanting inspiration. I started like 10, 11 years ago now. It was back end of 2013.
Wow.
And I just didn't see anyone out there that wore a hijab. I didn't see anyone out there that looked like me. Everyone, was very kind of one specific way, and no one looked like I did. And so I was like,
Mhm,
do you know what? I'm not gonna find anyone out there that looks like me if I don't make that first move and try and be that person for somebody else.
mhm.
And so I got started in it and I just fell in love with it, honestly.
So you've done it on the spur of the moment to say there's nobody else like that doing it. And then it's a big
Pretty
responsibility.
much, yeah. It wasn't a conscious responsibility I took on, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of didn't see that space, didn't see that person in that space, saw a gap there and was like, let me fill the gap. But I didn't expect it to go as far as it did. And then when I realized that, oh my God, like people actually are looking at me and thinking, there you go, there's the hijabi in this space. I'm like, right, okay, I need to fix up. Like I need to show up for people.
No, it's inspiring to see that, and the more I see it, because I've got two little girls,
Mm,
is who they can look up to, who they can see in that sort of field where they'll be like, "Oh, there are somebody that looks like me there."
yeah.
And it's important because I remember when I first started cosplaying, and we're going way back, 20 years ago, when Comic Con was like
Wow.
in a little, I think it was MCM Comic Con. It was in Russell Square. It was like in the hotel conference room, and they had a
Oh,
couple of
wow.
stands. And I used to do Doctor Strange and Wolverine.
Amazing.
I did Logan. I always did Logan because I had the
Yep.
messy hair.
Love
And
Logan.
yeah, but I found it very difficult at that time because it was still just me doing it at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I only recently bought it back after Star Wars Celebration,
Nice.
and I was like, you know what? All the guys, because we know a lot of the people that are in the same community,
Mm.
and one of the guys, Captain Tempest, he was like, "Dude, Gibbs, bring it back. And just be you. Give it your own
Yeah.
touch. And I think what you've done, especially in what you've done as well, is you give it your own touch. You do
I try.
changes in the
I
costume and
try.
things like that, where you kind of make it your own.
Mm.
So I did that as well. So I did Anakin Skywalker with some Nike Air Dunks
Nice.
and a lightsaber because I want to be comfortable still. I'm old now, so
Says, yeah, 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 of course.
wearing boots, I don't feel like it's going to work for me for like 8 hours of the day.
I know the pain, believe me.
With some of the cosplay outfits that you've done, because you have to
Mm.
go through alterations and things like that. Did you already have like a creative background when it came to like getting into this, or was that along the journey?
If by background you mean that I like to draw when I was a kid, then
Yeah.
yes. I was always very like artistic growing up. I was always very interested in it. But in terms of like, I don't know, like family or education or anything, no, it was all very much self-taught.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's very
Yeah.
good. There you go,
Well, I mean,
listeners.
growing up, I was always the first person to pick up, a pair of scissors before a pen, or do you know what I mean? A pen
That's
before a
amazing.
dress kind of thing. Like that was always my outlet was always kind of in art and crafts and things. So I suppose it developed naturally. It was bound to
Yeah,
happen, do you know what I mean?
something clicks. Definitely something
Mm,
clicks. I think
absolutely.
after I moved away from cosplaying, I focused more back into comic book artwork. So that's my original
Yeah.
background. I've always been a comic book artist,
Nice.
done independent stuff, and
Mm.
slowly I'm still got that dream. I'm gonna get there. The front
You got
covers,
this. You got
yeah,
this.
definitely gonna work on that. But like, it helped along my journey meeting different artists from the industry as well to
Yeah.
kind of understand their flow and how I find my style, and then accepting the fact that I don't have a style because I really went through a crisis where it was like I can draw, but I can't seem to find my style. And then I
Yeah.
think it was actually Frank Miller. I met him a couple of years ago at, I think it was
Nice.
2018 MCM Comic Con, and he said, "Some people just don't have a style. Some people just do."
Yeah.
So just kind of accept the fact that you have this ability, own it. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, amazing. So that kind of helped me along my journey after to doing working on different projects and things like that. And in
Lovely.
workshops, I do a lot of art workshops with
Mhm.
kind of the depending on different areas that I work in, just the local community to just zone into their creativeness.
Yeah.
So most of the guys that do listen to this podcast, they're mostly creatives that want to be able to find that inspiration.
Yeah.
That was the main reason to get you on it, because you've got to do some cool things as well in the process when it comes to gaming as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've been
how
very
did
lucky.
that kind of come into the Twitch affiliates and things like that? Was that just off the spur or?
Yes and no. So
Mhm,
obviously, as I said, I started cosplay 2013. So I've been doing that for a very long time. And throughout this, I've always been an avid gamer, but always in the background. It was always more
mhm,
of a personal thing than a career. Um, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now, honestly, most of it was with encouragement from friends. They're like, Danny, you like to talk, you are quite a funny person, you have the personality for it, why don't you try streaming?
mhm,
Um, so I honestly started up the account just again with their encouragement kind of thing. Wasn't ever on camera or anything like that. It was always very much just here's the gameplay and there's my voice in the background. And with time, a lot of people from my cosplay community started to come towards the gaming side of things, and they were like, I didn't know you gamed. Oh my God, this adds another layer. It's like an
mm.
onion. Sorry, I had to throw in a Shrek reference. But yeah, they liked the fact that I had more to me than just the cosplay. And so
Mhm.
from there, again, with more encouragement, I was finally able to be like, you know what? I could make this into a thing. And I just kept at it, kept at it, kept at it. And with time, the community grew, and that's how I ended up affiliated.
That's amazing. Absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. What's your favorite game? I know there's a lot, but like there must be the one go-to game.
Apex.
Ah, okay, cool.
It changes from time to time. Every couple of years, I feel like I pick up something new. It started off as Destiny,
Mhm,
which migrated into Destiny 2. A long time before that, though, when I was playing by myself, it was always Assassin's Creed and Skyrim. Uh, Somewhere along the line, Thief became my
mhm.
obsession for a few months. And then, but right now it's Apex. It's what
How
I'm
do
most
you
known for streaming as well.
how do you find the time for it? Because I know doing all of
Oof.
this stuff is quite difficult, and I think the listeners always find it difficult when they message me. It's like, "Kibs, how do you even keep up with a family,
Yeah,
2 kids, and trying to do stuff you love?" And
yeah,
I always tell them it's about time and management, but I
yeah,
suffer dyslexia,
absolutely.
so I'm a bit
Mm,
messy with information.
got you.
How do you kind of lay that out?
So, fun fact, I'm not just a content creator, I'm also a full-time pharmacist.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I have to factor that in as well. In all honesty, it is time management, but I also find gaming is a stress reliever for me. So if I've had a
Okay.
really rough day, more than anything, I'll want to just get on, the Xbox and just chill with some friends and play some games, just to
Yeah.
de-stress and not think about what happened through the day. I find streaming is very similar to that in the sense that I'm already doing it. I just happen to be putting it more out towards an audience rather than just chilling with friends, if that makes any sense.
No,
So
of course.
I don't necessarily find it as a chore, rather it's a hobby that I get to share with others.
That's that's
So
that's so important.
in that sense, that's how I kind of motivate myself to keep going with it, because I genuinely enjoy it. But then obviously you have to set yourself certain goals, and you have to keep up with some form of schedule to be able to keep it up kind of regularly and things. So I basically low isolated 2 days that I thought, you know what, I only do a half day on a Saturday at work, so I'll do the
Mm,
evening time as a stream night. And from years ago, I don't really know why, it always happened that a Wednesday for me was a day off. So I was
okay.
like, right, Wednesdays, Saturdays, stream, boom,
Perfect.
done.
That's really good. That's really
Mm.
good.
It
Like
helps me
I
to keep that kind of timetable so that I don't end up packing too many things in one go, because I do a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say because so that's multiple things,
Yeah.
and that's hard for a lot of people to kind of
Yeah.
take in. So
Yeah.
praises to you, sis, because that's hard work, and I know what that's like.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
I know what that's like. But you've
Mhm.
got to do some cool things with some really cool companies. I mean, what
Yeah.
does that feel like when you get to do that with that company and you're like, oh my God, that's the gaming company. Oh my God, that's the studio. Like, how
Yeah.
does that feel like when it comes to going to these events or just working with them?
It's amazing, honestly. I can't, for me personally, it never gets old. I never tire of that feeling of like almost like validation, like I've made it. This company has recognized me. This company wants to work.
Mm,
Um, it's a really good feeling. It again, it motivates you to keep going with it. It's like, okay, if
mhm.
I did this much and this company liked it, what if I add a little bit more? What if I push myself and do this thing that I've always wanted to do? Maybe I'll reach out to a different company, or maybe another company will find me. So it's nice. It's like a self-fulfilling thing.
No, no, of course, I think that's really important. Like a person in your place right now, and I'm gonna go to your origins now because I want to know why you picked the name HijabiHoo. Did you change that along the journey, or has that always been the same?
No, I've rebranded at the start of this year. Before that, it
Oh
was
wow.
Hijabi Hooligan.
Okay.
Which is what everyone knew me for a decade. I was the friendly neighborhood hooligan, and I still to this day go by that. However, from a branding perspective, obviously the word hooligan is associated with not the very best of kind of connotations. So
Mhm.
I shortened it down to the who, essentially to
It
keep it as
works.
like, like who is she kind of deal. But also I just felt like it's nice to have a change, you know? I've been
Yeah, yeah, of course.
in the same sort of state for a decade, but I finally started to push it a bit further. Why
Mhm.
not bring out a new name and a rebrand and make it all sort of professional and tie in together? And also my Twitch used to be under a completely different name as well, because again, I started it as a friends thing. I started it
Yeah,
as a like a personal account. So it was tied in with my Xbox gamer tag. So I changed everything. So now everything's under HijabiHoo. But yeah,
yeah.
before
I
that was
remember
the hooligan.
the alias names. It's always difficult.
Oh yeah.
I went through my crisis as
Oh
well with
God.
picking the right
Do
one, but
tell.
then towards the end, no. So what was it? So my original kind of nickname was so the Riddler, Kibler the Riddler. That was one of them.
Nice, I like
Eth-
that.
E- Ethan Hawke. I don't know why I got that. That was like my first ever email address, Ethan Hawke, and I'm like Ethan Hawke, and I think it was because of training day. I was like, oh my god, this
Mm,
guy's an amazing actor. And I kind of like just took that A list on. I was like, I'm gonna be Ethan
yeah.
Hawke from now on. And then I realized,
Fairs, fairs.
what do I do? So same thing. Well, actually, not even a decade ago, 15 years ago, after my first divorce, I was like, I came back to my mum's
Mm.
because I was living in the Midlands, and my mum was like, come back home. There's space. Stop moping around. You just have to start life again. Nothing's
Yeah,
wrong. Things happen.
yeah.
And I came home and I remember my mum kept like she put me in the loft, but had everything in storage. But she had all my artwork from when I was 16 years old.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
during my period of going to college at 16 to
Mm.
30, I had not touched a comic book. I had not drawn. I didn't watch
Wow.
movies or wasn't interested in it. And got to say, mum kind of like inspired me again. I think she left it
Oh.
there on purpose, in a way. And it inspired me. I remember I looked at my artwork and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And,
I
Instagram,
did
Facebook,
that.
yeah, Instagram, Facebook started kicking off. And I was like, you know what? Let me give this social media a go.
Mm.
And I went under the name Kibla Ahmed Art. I've always kept to that name. That's still there. That profile's still there. I still do
Yeah.
artwork. But then 8 years ago, we started this podcast, the Brothers Geek Out podcast, and it was really we started because my brother moved abroad.
Mm.
We're a close knit family, and he was like he loved Joe Rogan at the time, and he was like, why don't we just talk about the stuff we love? So I got inspired by artwork,
Mm.
inspired by pop culture and gaming, and then we started this podcast 8 years ago, and it's opened. I still can't believe some of the stuff that happens. Even this morning, like some of the
Yeah.
stuff that happens,
Amazing.
and it's like, oh my god, like we can be out there. You can
Yeah,
do these things, and you
absolutely. Yeah.
can be absolutely amazing and inspiring to other people because
Mm.
you get those lovely messages, and you're like, oh my god, you make a difference, right? And that's insane in itself.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's how I stuck to Kibla Ahmed Art, and I was like, if I'm going to
Nice.
represent it, I'm going to stick to that. And the Brothers Geek Out podcast is my alias. And but yeah, it's interesting to see that you've gone through this journey and been able to do some of these cool cosplays. Do you have some favorites in there that you've absolutely like that's
Oh
your
yeah.
favorite cosplay to go to?
Absolutely. Right now, I'd say it was Roshan from Assassin's Creed
Okay,
Mirage.
cool. All
That
right.
one is just I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's again just the Assassin's Creed obsession has come back in full swing with this game. But also like I did put in quite a lot. Like it took about a year and a bit. It took 13 months give or
Wow.
take, altogether, to put that cosplay together from scratch. And I don't know, there's just this feeling about putting it all on together and the blade and everything, and knowing that like you are that character. Yeah,
So
that one's
cool.
definitely one of my go-tos, I'd say.
Like I find it interesting that you pick specific characters that you work your cosplayers around,
Mm,
but what it means to you as well. Because people used to ask me, why do you pick Doctor Strange and why do
yeah,
you pick Logan?
yeah.
And it was always my response was that in the comic books, those characters connected to me more
Hmm.
because of the
Yeah,
way I was feeling and who I
yeah.
was at that time. Uh, I remember doing this interview with the BBC, and this was like 6, 7 years ago.
Mm.
They did a really bad piece. I don't like the BBC. Uh,
Okay.
because they turned it into more of a why are South Asian or people like us doing cosplays that our characters are Caucasian. And I was like,
Oh,
ah,
mm,
man, you really put me on the spot there. Now, like, it wasn't meant like that. They
yeah.
chopped and cut the interview where I was talking about the reason why I did it was those characters represented me at the time and
Mm,
still do to this day. Like, I
yeah,
feel like I carry a bit of Wolverine with me because of his pain. I carry a bit
yeah.
of Doctor Strange's uh, arrogance with me because it's things like that
Yeah.
we pick out on those characters. So
Mm.
you must relate a lot to some of the characters that you cosplay as well. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've always
uh,
said like when people go for characters purely for the aesthetic, that's not, it's great and they probably smash it and they look amazing, but for me that doesn't work. I have to really kind of relate to the character or really just want to be the character in order to make that character. Otherwise, I wouldn't put in the effort that I do. And if I don't put in that effort, then I'm not happy with the outcome.
so
Right,
important,
and then I won't want to do it
so important.
again. And so yeah, I have to relate to a character, or at least, like I said, see the character and fall in love with the design at the very least, and say I want to create that, I want to
Hmm.
make that, I want to put my own spin on that.
Nice, so cool,
Yeah,
absolutely cool.
thank you.
You've put your own spin onto things, which is amazing, and I'm starting to see a lot more people being inspired by it, which is absolutely amazing. You must get some really cool messages that
Oh
make you
yeah,
say this is worth it.
honestly, yeah, some of the messages that some people have reached out and sent me are just, they're very heartwarming, you know,
Mm.
like even just the smallest thing of like, I had a gentleman tell me that his 13-year-old daughter apparently wants to become the next hijabi hooligan. This is before I rebranded. Honestly, it's so humbling. Like I again, I wasn't expecting it and I wasn't trying to become this role model or whatever for anyone.
Hmm.
Having people respond like that and people actually looking to you and thinking, I want to do that as well, that is like the biggest achievement beyond
That's
working with
amazing.
any company or gaining any amount of, online popularity or whatever. That is the
No, no, no. Of
achievement right
course, no.
there.
You're right. You're right. It's that. No, it's a whole different feeling. I remember we've got a couple of messages that people that were like substance users and things like
Mm,
that, and ended up listening to our podcast because we talk about a lot about mental health.
yeah.
For me personally, it's become a big part of the podcast now, and
Mhm.
how we look after ourselves, how we forgive ourselves in the process, because we're going to make mistakes along our journey. But
Absolutely.
it's how do we put that out there to people
Yeah.
to say you could do that? I grew up in
Mm,
a strict, still kind of strict, but my father didn't used to talk to me.
yeah.
He didn't know how to express himself to me when he was
Mm,
struggling. Only now he's opened up because of how open we are,
mm,
because he realized like I'm not going to be able to connect with my kids because the way they are, because he kept us together to be unity, like to have
mm,
unity in our family,
mhm.
yet he wasn't there in the picture.
Got you, yeah.
So it was like, Dad, let it out.
Yeah.
Just doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Forget
just
about your
talk to
pride.
us.
Talk to us and let it. And I remember the first time he broke down, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't know how to react. I was like, what do we do here? Well, like, what happens now? And it's not really like, I don't know. I suppose for his era, it wasn't something that was the norm
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, you just look. When I bring my kids around, you cry anyway now. So you're like my dada. You did the same thing. So any time my dad saw me, he'd cry because he was amazed to see his grandchildren. He
Mm,
has grandchildren. I was like, you got the same thing now. So like,
yeah,
there's nothing
exactly.
wrong with it. Just let it all out.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
soft
I
anyway
love
because like,
that.
yeah.
I love that so much. It's so important to talk about mental health. It's so important to bring light to these issues because I feel like if no one does, then no one will know that other people relate.
Yeah, no,
You know what I mean?
it's
Like people like you honestly are a massive, massive inspiration for me because I didn't think that anyone could relate to the kind of things that I've been through and the stress that I felt. And so seeing other people like yourself talking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not on my own in this.
no,
It's very isolating sometimes being, you'll probably know this, it's very isolating just in general, the way we are as well. Like we are,
yes,
we are Asian, we are Middle Eastern. That in itself, we can
mm,
feel very much like a minority. On top of that, being online and having your face out there on the internet, it's very lonely.
mm.
And so, people like you bringing light to these issues that we all face, it does make you feel like you're part of something, and it feels good to be seen and to be heard. So thank you for
No,
that.
it's good. It's good. It's good. Mashallah. It's just us bringing it out there, isn't it?
Mm.
My dad still finds it difficult that 42-year-old kid still wears superhero t-shirts, but I was like, it's too late.
Yeah,
You raised us up on pop culture, so
trust me,
it's
my
stuck with us.
dad's the same.
So I said to him, like, it's fine. Like, it's your fault. I know you worked really hard, so you'd put the VHS player on and you'd leave a movie on. We're
Exactly,
gonna watch it.
exactly,
We got into
exactly,
it. There's the only reason. But like,
exactly.
bless him now, he finds it hard to say it, but just to share like a really key moment, and I know
Mm,
my listeners probably get bored of listening to this, but I don't care. Like, it's one of those moments where, as we know, with depending on what platform you're on,
mm,
if you're monetized or not, we don't get paid for this podcast. We don't get paid to go out and go to these
mm.
events, and the rest of it is truly like something I love and adore because someone like me has never been to something like this. And 10-year-old Kibbs is over the moon when situations happen. So I remember sending him and my mum the photo of uh, meeting The Rock.
Yeah,
So I interacted with The Rock, I think it was a year before they released the first trailer of Black Adam.
nice. Okay.
And my daughter was about 2 years old. I've just put her to bed, and DC, I feel it's DC fandom, and they released a clip, and I reacted to it, and I put it on my Twitter, and he reposted it and commented on it. I didn't read the
Mm.
comment, thinking, "Oh, it could be a fan page." The day after, when I woke up, my phone had blown up, and I was like, "Oh my god, that was actually The Rock that retweeted." Anyway, that situation happened. A year later, same day,
Hmm.
they surprised me, and I get to meet The Rock.
Oh, that's so nice.
And like for me in that moment was like, that's it. Everything that I've worked, everything that we've done, that was my moment. Like,
I
was
love
like, oh
that.
my god, I'm in the same room. Like, we did this. We actually did this. I sent the picture to my mum and dad. My mum came back straight and was like, "How the hell did you meet The Rock?" And my dad was like, he wanted to say it. I could see it in his eye, and I was like, "It's all right. I already know." Because he never. It's hard because I was kind of the outsider in the family when it came to comic books and artwork and
Yeah,
pop culture.
yeah.
He found it very hard to say, "Will you ever find work in it?" And I could totally understand the generation he grew up in,
Mm,
but he was like, "Oh my god, he actually did it. He actually did it." And
yeah,
yeah, it's one of those proud moments, and I love sharing it. I say everyday people can. I swear, if you will it and you pray for it and you do it and believe in yourself as well, you
absolutely.
end up doing all these cool things that you'd never think you'd do as a kid.
Yeah.
That must have been for you, like working with some of the companies you've worked with, and you're standing there and you're like, oh my God, this is Disney, or this is, you it's an overwhelming feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly like you said. I just think back to 10-year-old Danny and I'm like, I've always wanted it. I never would have thought I'd even get this close, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's it's I don't even know how to express it to you genuinely. It is just one of those things where you look around you and you think, I put in this hard work and I believed in myself and I went through this, that, and the other, and no one will ever know what you've struggled with to get to the point that you got to. But I had to go through this and overcome this and get past this to get to this point. And now I'm here. Yeah, it's an amazing feeling, honestly.
No, absolutely amazing. You should be proud, honestly.
Thank you.
And I know the listeners, they'll be geeking out and sending me loads of questions. Uh, have you been watching the X-Men series by any chance?
I haven't started it yet, but only because I tend to I give like consuming kind of media like that a break during Ramadan. And obviously it
Oh,
only just
right,
ended
cool.
two
Yep,
days ago.
that's
So
right.
yeah, so for that reason, no. But it's there. It's waiting for me to just sit down and watch. I've got so much to catch up on.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, no, that period was hard, definitely very hard, and trying
I
to keep
grew
up with
up
everything.
on the X-Men. First comics I ever read were X-Men.
It's,
The first character I ever cosplayed was Storm.
oh wow.
Yeah, that's going way back. There's no photographic evidence of that anymore because it was back when we used to have like flip phones,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and obviously you couldn't transfer anything. There was no memory cards back then, nothing. So there's no evidence of it, but I promise you the first thing I ever did was Storm. And yeah,
Oh,
so
bless. That's amazing.
X-Men is a massive, massive thing. I was so gassed when they said they were bringing back 97. I was really excited.
Yeah, no,
So I can't wait to sit down and watch it.
oh my God, you got so much to catch up on. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
wait for your
I've heard.
reactions. I'm gonna wait for your reactions because, like, for me personally, it's like X-Men was the one for me. X-Men
Yeah,
was I think, second batch of comic books that was handed over to me. So my uncle,
nice.
I became an inspiring artist because of my uncle. My uncle was my dad's younger brother was this amazing comic book artist. He didn't really go down that line because of family pressures,
Yeah,
but he handed down like X-Men comics to me, and that's what made me not feel like an outsider no more. And
amazing.
that's what like changed everything. And then I
Mm,
remember the animation very well as well. But it was like, oh my God, these are the characters that felt out of place in the world. They were us,
yeah,
and they were back then before the Avengers got big. Anyway, X-Men
yeah,
was the thing for
yeah,
Marvel. They were the
yeah.
team. They were the A team.
They were exactly.
So
Everyone wanted to be an X-Men and wanted to be part of the X-Men. Like, Xavier, please notice me. See something in
exactly.
me.
Exactly that, and it's like, oh no, amazing. Oh no, I'm looking forward to your reactions on it. Uh, stay away from our pages because it's full of spoilers. Because we
Noted.
just react like crazy. So
I'll hit you up when
mute
I
us,
watch the
mute
first
us.
episode. I'll be like,
uh, but yeah, no, absolutely amazing. You still into comic books as much now?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't get to read them as often, but that's just because of a time
Hmm.
thing. But in terms of like, you know, consuming media around them, yeah, absolutely. I still try and keep up with the story that as much as I can, the story arcs. I try and keep up with the characters. I've seen honestly every film 1,000 times over that's come out based on those comic books, whether people like them or not. I've got them all right in front of me there in a collection. Like,
Nice.
big fan. My next
So
cosplay is
okay.
from the X-Men.
Ah, sneak peeks, guys. There you go. You've got exclusives there. You got
Mm.
exclusive. That So with is there like a favorite comic? Is there like one of those books that you go back to sometimes or
Uh, no. The honest answer is no. There's
okay.
not a specific comic book. Um, there's certain arcs that I tried to
Hmm.
go back to, but unfortunately, as a kid, we moved house and the comics I'd collected back then ended up in the box that got trashed. Yeah, I was very, very upset. I was
Astaghfirullah,
about
astaghfirullah.
7 years old, and
Ah,
honestly, I think I cried for like 3 days straight.
I would as well, definitely.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
have I would have as well. I lost a couple of collectibles during my move when we
Mm,
bought the house after I got married, and it was like
mm.
my wife was like, "What's wrong?" It's like just part of me missing.
Literally, like I've
It's
just
a
lost a
part of
chunk
me
of me.
part of me missing, and I
Literally.
remember tearing the place apart trying to look
Yeah,
for it and not finding it.
same.
And I mean, I ended up getting that. I rebought them again because I was
Mm,
like, all right, you lose things happen,
mm.
and you lose track of things as well. But it's very difficult once you lose something. You don't realize. Some people don't realize like when they come to my house and they look at my collectibles and they're like, they want to touch it and stuff, and it's like I'm there like a
Mm.
security guard right next to them, and they're like, why are you standing here for? And I'm like, because I know you're gonna touch it, and I don't want you to touch it.
Yeah, yep,
But there's a reason
yep.
why it's framed on the wall. It's not to be touched.
Literally.
You can
It's
look
up
at it,
there,
please.
not down here for a specific reason. No touchy.
uh, you going to MCM Comic Con later on? Have you got any plans to this time around?
I hope to.
Cool.
Nothing's confirmed just yet. I do have a few other things going on at the minute, but potentially, potentially.
And is there anything like sort of coming on your end that's like you're really excited for?
Oh yeah, loads. Where do I start? My goodness. Um, Let me think. What can I talk about? What have I what have I not signed NDAs for? No. I mean,
Yeah.
my latest cosplay, for example, I'm doing. I don't know if you know Excalibur.
Oh my God. Yes, I do.
So I've been dying to do an actual hijabi character for a while.
Wow.
Obviously Excalibur's always been on there, but I have a specific vision for her in mind. I've got all my fabrics ready, everything sorted. I just need to sit down and actually make it. But I have that in the works, and I have a shoot booked in the summer with a wonderful photographer friend of mine, Millie. She's incredible, and there is going to be a horse involved. So
Oh
I will
wow.
be Excalibur with Excalibur on a horse, and I'm
That's so
gassed. I can't
epic.
wait.
Like, so when you're planning for something like that, so
Mm,
you're planning the shoot, you're planning everything,
mm.
and then you're gonna go to the extra mile to do that as well. Like, how does your concept ideas work? Do you write in a notepad all the time? Do you write notes on your phone?
I
How
do,
do you
yeah.
process that?
So I have a whole thing on my phone of notes, and it's just like an entire cosplay section that I kind of like keep separate from all of my like work stuff and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that and personal notes. In it there is at the very top a list of all the different cosplays that I want to do, some of which I have done, some of which honestly I've deviated so far from the list that I've just not bothered to document them anymore, but I always add them onto the bottom and then
Yeah.
tick them off as I go. But yeah, so there's a list there, and then there's like ideas that I want to do. So if I see something online and I think I want to recreate that, or if I see a scene in a comic or a scene in a film and I think I have a vision for this,
Hmm.
I will write it down. I'll normally reference exactly where it is if it's in a film or if it's a page number or whatever. And I'll in my mind now more so than a few years back when I didn't know anyone, but now I know a few photographers and I have good friends as well who are very talented in that field. I'll write down if I have a specific photographer in mind who I know their style fits.
Yeah.
Then I'll obviously, months or weeks down the line, if I actually do start making this project and I think, right, it's happening, I'll get in touch and I'll say, look, this is my vision. Can we make this work? And then we figure out things like travel and
Hmm.
locations and horses and whatnot in between. So I actually did that last night. I saw something and I was like, I have been dying to make this and I want to make this happen. And I reached out to a friend of mine and we're in the works, and it might happen immediately after Excalibur. It might not happen at all. I don't know. But that's my process behind it. I kind of start from I see it to I make it to then I plan the shoot around it.
That's it, guys. Process, guys. Process is so
Process,
important.
guys.
Process,
Trust
guys,
me.
is
Otherwise,
so important.
otherwise you'd have like a half done cosplay in a scene that's like edited the complete wrong way. You know, you'd have like I don't even know. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you what would come out if I didn't attempt to document and plan things properly.
No, I think it's
A
really
mess.
important that people find their ways in trying to do that,
Mm,
because people that are trying to get into doing something, and
mm.
remember always, guys, the love of it. It has to be for the love of it.
Absolutely,
Honestly, it
absolutely.
has to be for the love of it, because I think the thing that some people have digressed to was to thinking that's gonna find me different avenues, and they
Yeah.
think about things that are not kind of like not on the plan.
Yeah.
Because if it's written
Yeah.
down, I think personally you end up executing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It also
it's
just helps to
important.
have it all laid out, I feel.
Yeah,
Do you not think where you can look at it and be like, right, these are all the different things I need to do to make this happen.
it's tangible. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely it's
exactly.
tangible, because I think it's
Exactly.
important. Like, I'm a visual learner, and
Yeah.
I suppose some of the guys that do listen to the podcast suffer dyslexia. The
Mm-hmm.
information overload can be
Yeah.
horrendous. So if I was to show you my part of my office now, there is sticky notes everywhere. I look like a madman. My wife hates it, but it's the only way that I can
Hmm.
plan things
Yeah.
and work things out. I think it's really
Yeah.
important that people kind of go from there.
Yeah. You got to do it in a way that you can digest it and then in a way that you can understand it and then eventually, I guess, regurgitate it into the work that you make. It has to be. Do you know what I
No,
mean? I'm the same. I've got bits of projects everywhere. I've got a whiteboard on my wall there, right next to my bed. Stuff all over my PC, like all over the walls. It helps me to visualize what I need to get on with.
no, visuals is so important, guys.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
personally, like, just write it down, do it.
Yeah,
Honestly, people keep
yeah.
asking me how, why, how come, why, what have you
Mm,
done to get those opportunities or do
mm,
things? And I honestly said, write it down and
yeah,
visualize it, guys. Like,
yeah.
I didn't visualize meeting people. I didn't visualize me doing what I'm doing
No,
now. Like, I didn't think that. I got the extra push because, my little kids and I want to leave something behind for them,
Mhm.
whether they like this pop culture or not.
Mhm.
I just want to leave something for them to say, all right,
Mhm.
Dad, when they go and see my TikToks and be like, Dad, that is cringe. It's a memory for them to laugh at later on. I've
Yeah,
realized for me, social media has become a photo album for them to look at later on. Like,
I
I
love
don't
that.
put up pictures of my kids and stuff, but I want them to say, like, here's a history for Dad. That's his diary. Look at the crazy stuff he got up to. And I think
I love
because I've
that.
seen it that way, I haven't had to go through the anxiety of the social media anxiety of
Yeah.
the validation part of it, of I'm
Yeah.
gonna get this many likes or that many likes or this
Yeah.
and that. And I think it's a hard part, and I think that's another part of mental health that's really important. That if you start focusing on that,
Mhm.
you're gonna go down a very deep hole of
Oh, yeah,
very
absolutely.
dark depression. Because I
Absolutely.
went through it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
went
you and
through
me
that. I
both.
went through that part, which was very difficult. And I think
Mhm.
when was it? 2 years ago, my brother was living in Singapore, so he got married over there, and we went there, and that was the first time in years that I took a like an old Nokia phone.
Mm.
So no social, everything. I didn't have no technology. I didn't even have a watch. It was just that phone, just in case of emergencies.
Yeah.
That was it, and it really kind of cleared about me being present in the moment,
Mm.
and what social media can. It has its good things, but it can have its bad with it as well.
Oh,
And I think
yeah.
that's with everything.
Yeah.
Like it's 50-50. If you eat too many chocolates, it's gonna be bad for your teeth, guys. Uh, make sure you're flossing and you're brushing your teeth. It's so important. It's like just
Absolutely.
there's like we have addictive personality, and I think that
Yeah.
dopamine thing that it gives us is amazing in that moment. And people have said that, how come you haven't blown up? And it's like, that's not my main thing. It's not
Yeah.
about that. I think if you could get the right message across and inspire people in different
Mhm.
ways, then they won't have to feel like, social media is a difficult one because you have to plan content as well with what you
Yeah, yeah,
do.
yeah.
And if you're getting work for it as well,
Mhm.
I can understand that part of it. And I see it as what is it? Joe Rogan says I post and ghost so that I'm not on it for so long. So basically
I love
post the
that.
image and then just kind of leave it.
Disappear.
And
I
then
love that.
you have that time to let it process. It
Mm.
could do good. Like, the same thing with Will Smith commented on my post, which is insanely
I
mad this
saw that.
morning.
Congratulations, by the
I
way.
woke up this morning and I was like, I do these silly videos just to promote a film or something like that.
Mhm.
And I don't expect nothing from it. And, because I did that yesterday, usually after 5 o'clock, I try and stay away from my phone.
Mhm.
To wake up this morning, have my coffee, first coffee in a while. And it was like, wow, oh my God, is this real? Is this a fan page again? So you have those little moments, but
Yeah,
that's the reward part of it. But for
absolutely.
me, it's made it a reward to say, oh my God,
Yeah.
wow, if it reached to that person,
Yeah.
that's, me without me doing, I think a lot of people, it's a difficult one because of the industry we're in,
Mhm.
but we do bombard a lot of companies sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I
Yeah.
know it's part of the job, but
Mhm.
I've realized I've started to slowly come away from that now.
Mm.
So depending unless it's like a paid social or anything like that,
Yeah.
then yes, that's when you do your required things that you have to do. But I
Yeah.
feel like personally, like do something silly that you love, and then it will just turn into gold. And that little moment, that little
Yeah.
memory, is a gold nugget for you for the
Yeah.
rest of your life after. Because my kids can say, "Oh my God, Will Smith messaged my dad." That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that.
That's the
Like that
thing,
part.
isn't it? It's when you
Yeah.
love it, it reaches more people when you love it, and it
Hmm.
reaches the right kind of people.
That's right.
And when they see how much you're enjoying it and they see kind of what you've put into it and how it genuinely makes you happy, it brings about a whole different type of reaction. And then when you get that reaction from the likes of Will Smith, from the likes, do you know what I mean? Then it makes the whole experience even more like positive and even happier for you and even bigger of a memory and better of a memory for you.
No, definitely. That's it's things like that. I think
Mm.
for some of the artists that listen to the podcast and send me messages about what they do and how they do it, I honestly, like, I can't say it enough, guys. And you hear it from my brother as well. Just honestly love, 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 love what you do.
Yeah.
Fully indulge in it. Like,
Yeah.
there's no shame in what you love. It could be music. You could play the
Absolutely. Yeah.
violin amazingly. Just fall in love with that. The rest will come. I promise you,
Yeah.
the rest will come. And if you have faith, I believe in my faith. it does happen. It does happen.
Yes, agreed, agreed.
Danny, I was going to ask, where can the guys find you, social media wise?
I am HijabiHoo everywhere. Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever they call it, TikTok, everywhere, everywhere. HijabiHoo.
Awesome. I'm not going to keep you for too long. I want to thank you for your time. Honestly, it's inspiring to see somebody in that era to do something like that, which is absolutely amazing. You should be proud of the work that you've done so far. You've caught many people's attention with the work you do and inspire people in the process. And I can only wish you more to inspire more people in what you do as well.
Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me. Honestly, it was really nice of you to
No,
reach
it's
out.
really good. No, definitely. And because it's something that we want to do more often as well.
Mhm.
Last year it was quite dominated by the male guys on the podcast. I want to be able to push it
Oh, we
out there
gotta
now
break that
because
up now, don't we,
yes, we
guys? We
have to.
gotta
We
break
have
that
to.
up a bit.
We have to. We
Get
have
some
to.
female presence in there, you know what I'm saying?
No, definitely. I think so we employed my sister, my youngest sister, joined the team early this year.
Amazing.
Only because I said that I want to concentrate on more on the podcast and not the events. So
Yeah.
my sister's out there going to the events and writing reviews for us, which is absolutely amazing.
Amazing.
And we do a lot of content on movies. I think that's where our
I
main
love
thing
that.
is.
Yeah.
And I wanted because I'm writing my second child's book, and I want to concentrate on that more.
Amazing.
So I did a book for Alara, now it's a book
Uh-huh.
for Nia.
Oh,
Uh,
beautiful.
and it's just something again tangible, something there for them. It's not
Yeah,
something to publish or anything. I think self goals are important.
absolutely.
Yeah, self goals are important, and it's
Absolutely.
something that I want to closely work on. My
Oh,
wife's an
good
artist as well,
luck.
so no, thank you. She draws, I draw. We put this book
Amazing.
together, and then it's amazing to Alara when she first got that book. It
Hmm.
was amazing to see her reaction and see her dada daddy in it and mum and dad in the
Oh,
book. So it was amazing to see that. So it was what we can do to inspire them in the process
yeah.
as well.
I love
So I think
that.
it's important. So, but yeah, we do need to split up the podcast so it's not so dominated by the brothers. I think my sister was like, I think you need to add a little sister to the title soon. So we're working on
At
new
some
logos
point.
as well, definitely to get my
Amazing.
sister into the logo as well. So bless her.
Amazing.
So it's amazing that we have that helps me out. But it's my sister's, she's always been in that era, like that stuff. But she, again, found it very hard to kind of put herself in that situation
Yeah.
where I've said,
It is. It is difficult. It's never going to be easy to just suddenly put yourself out there and especially again when you don't see anyone or you don't see many people out there that look like yourself, it's very daunting. It makes you very nervous and it can give you very, for me personally, really bad anxiety.
"Hmm,
But sometimes it's just a case of you have to push it. You have to put yourself out there and just take each day as it comes. And eventually
yeah,
it gets easier.
that's good. That's good to
Yeah.
hear. The listeners will love hearing that because I think it, they might, some may find it difficult. I
Hmm.
was that kid who didn't know how to. I think the podcast has made me more open in my
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh,
Uh,
mate, yeah, same, literally same. Like growing up, I didn't know how to speak to people. I was very kind of shy and very awkward and very internal. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Everything was up here. And then to go from that to putting yourself online where everyone literally you're asking people to look at you and to listen to you, it is very, very, very scary. But if you like you keep saying, if you love what you do and you enjoy
yeah,
what you do and it makes you happy, then do it and trust me, it'll reach the right people. It'll make other
absolutely
people
awesome.
happy with you.
There you go, guys. Heard it from Danny there yourselves. Guys, make sure you follow her on her journey. All her social media links will be below in the description. And if you guys are listening to this podcast on all the podcast streaming apps, and there's so many, I can't keep up. I swear there's like 20 platforms now. If you guys are listening to it, please jump on, check it out. The links are all in the description. Danny, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you
I'm
for having
wishing you
me.
all the best and keep on
Thank you.
inspiring.
Thank you so much. I'll do my best and you too.